Roll call is co-chair Bob Phillips is present. Co-chair Senator Archibald.
Here.
Representative Arthur Cavesi.
Here.
Representative Grace Diaz.
Here.
Representative Catherine Kazarian.
Here.
Representative Brian C. Newberry.
Here.
Representative David Place.
Present.
Senator Jessica Dela Cruz.
Here.
Senator Walter Felag. Senator Anna Casada. Senator Gordon Rogers. Senator Susan Sosnowski. House Public Appointee Antonio Lopes.
Present.
House of Public Appointee Caprice Ransaw. House Public Appointee Stephen Yucci.
Here.
Senate Appointee Maria Bucci. Senate Appointee Harold Metz. And Senate Appointee Alvin Reyes.
Here.
We do have a quorum. We have 14 present, 4 not here. Okay, tonight we're going to be doing the overview of the redistricting process with Ryan Taylor, overview of statewide census data and legislative seat distribution, in-depth review of census data in Bristol County itself, demonstration of the online tools available for public input, and then we're going to open it up for public comment. So at this time, I would like to hand the floor to Ryan, so you can start. Please begin.
Thank you, Chair. We do want to talk about the overview of the statewide population shifts. Bristol County is a very interesting area in the fact that it is very kind of in the middle of a lot of competing geography. You know, we can't send districts into the Bay across to Warwick, and we can't send districts into Massachusetts. So it's one of the parts of the state that always kind of deserves to have a little bit flexibility and an eye for trying to keep towns and neighborhoods together as soon as we can, as well as we can, because there's not a lot of places to go to get population in Bristol County, and that of course is because of how it compares to the rest of the state. So we will be taking a closer look at how populations have changed here, and we are getting some more participation in our public tools. This map we've shown from the beginning. This is the 2020 Census PL redistricting data. Bristol, the town of Bristol, is one of 3 in the state that did not gain population at all. We talk a lot about how the growth has been focused in the north of the state. Everything that's dark green on the left is over 1,000 people larger, up to 12,000 people larger. And on the right-hand side with the percent change is the one that we kind of focus on even more. Every state, every city or town that's dark green has gained over 5% population. And Bristol has lost a couple. This is one of the examples of how we show information that shows how a city or town how we'll respond to the redistricting data that has come out. As you can see, almost every town in the north part of the state will be gaining a portion of a seat. Providence will be the big gainer. They're going to gain almost a third of a House seat and about a fifth of a Senate seat. Warwick is going to, even though it didn't lose population, or East Providence, even though these towns did not lose population, their growth was stagnant to the point to where they will see some of the districts shift away. They still have representation, just a lot of the districts that are in there will be having to go to a neighboring town to get the population that they need. One of the reasons Warwick is so underpopulated was because of the airport expansion. One of the reasons Cranston is underpopulated is because the ACI is about 1,000 population smaller than 10 years ago. And just in a vacuum, you can see how the towns in Bristol County aren't going to gain or lose very much just by themselves. But being at the mercy of both sides, there will be change here, and I'll introduce that in this slide here. This depicts state Senate districts as close as they are to the ideal population of 28,800. Districts that are in dark pink or light pink are too populated. Their lines will need to shrink. Districts that are gray, the darker the gray, the more extreme, those districts will need to expand their boundaries because they are too underpopulated. I like to say that all the districts that are pink kind of act like little vacuum cleaners, and all the districts that are gray act like little leaf blowers. One of the things that we've learned in the last 2 weeks is that the vacuum cleaning effect from the north is much stronger than the leaf blowing effect from the south. We looked a lot about how the district is going to change as you move up north. So for example, if you start from the Newport and draw north, each of the districts is going to need to get bigger, and it causes this a kind of a ripple effect. If you manage it right, it doesn't turn into a tsunami. But if you get to a city such as Pawtucket, and you've seen this big growth that has come into the city from the district south, they're also seeing districts leave from the north, and almost there's more of a prominent shift from the north than from the south. And cities like Pawtucket are like right in the middle. I can say that probably the districts in Bristol County will have the same number, but just they'll see that they have shifted north because of this effect. We talked about state Senate and state House. Congressional districts, we are drawing to be the exact same, 548,690. But I do appreciate that there is a flexible wiggle room for the state Senate and state House districts so that we can manage to keep towns and neighborhoods together by utilizing this flexibility. If we had to draw everyone to one person deviation, the lines would go everywhere, and we can make a lot more sense of these lines if we do manage to work within the variation that we've had, and we able to use this because of some legal decisions in the past have said in order to keep counties together, keep cities together, we don't have to draw state House and state Senate lines to be the exact same. That was a decision based on the state legislature. Congressional is a little bit different. We are in Bristol County, and let's see how the county has changed in the last 10 years. This is a map that shows the total population change by percent by block group. I got this from Social Explorer because they put a lot of work into helping us compare apples to apples, because census geography changes every 10 years. They're not static boundaries. And so it takes some work to be able to compare the same boundary that was in existence 10 years ago to what exists now. Districts that are green have gained population. If it's dark green, it's over 10%. We see that in parts of Warren and Barrington. And district and block groups that are red have lost population. And we know that Bristol as a town has lost population. Now we can look and see kind of closer in where that loss took place. It was pretty much downtown and in the peninsula. We do look at race data in redistricting. There's two different ways to look at it. Neither of them is more accurate than the other. I don't want to say that it's better to look at alone or in combination. They're both accurate ways of looking at race. And I'll explain the difference here in a second. I want to show alone here. It is pretty much a non-Hispanic white county, much more so compared to Providence or Kent. Whites make up 89% of the race alone. That includes Hispanics. And you can see if you total up all the race alones, you do get to 100%. Redistricting plans often take Hispanics out of each racial identification group, and they add a separate column of data to represent their ethnicity. That's why we often look at non-Hispanic race alone. And as you can see, each of the population totals from the race shrink a little bit to cover the 3.8% Hispanics in Bristol County. Add them up together, it's 100%. But what is race combined? Race combined is a way to look at the maximum number of each racial group. This is, as you can see in the third line here, where we're looking at the combined, we have put Hispanics back into each racial group, and we have taken all the users who said that they were multiple race, and we have put them back into their various racial groups that they identified as on the census. So you can see that 94.4% of Bristol County identified that they were all or part white, or 3.5% all or part Asian, and close to 4% all or part other. Oftentimes we see that a lot of census respondents who consider themselves Hispanic have classified themselves as an other race, because when you look at adding back Hispanics, you can see a fairly big drop in the respondents saying other, as well as white. So these are all, neither was more accurate, they just looked at race in a different light. And we will definitely be reporting on both of these figures on any district plans that we draft and present to the commission. And you can do we do the exact same thing for voting age population. One of the caveats though with looking at combined is that when you total up the racial groups, you get more than 100%. It doesn't mean that doesn't show that there's a data error. It just means that there is you're counting a person more than once, because we no longer count multiple races in one number. We take out the multiple races and we add one for each of the races that they respond with. That does mean you do go more than 100% if you totaled up all the percentages. It's not, that is perfectly normal. Every county in the state has slowly been getting more diverse since 2000. I was able to show this for Providence, and then we also showed this for Kent County. In 2000, Kent County was almost 97% white. Now they're 88% white. And all the other groups have slightly or quite significantly gained their population percent in the county. The black population has doubled. Multiple races have more than tripled. and Hispanic residents have more than tripled their population since 2000. This is how we're looking at now, how different racial groups have changed since 2010. This is the white percentage, and every block group has a few percentage points more or less non-Hispanic white than before. Not a lot of change with groups like Native Americans. Very light green and very light pink shows that there has been a small shift, but nothing that we can really point to as having a focused effect. For African Americans, they have increased quite significantly in the south part of Bristol, near Roger Williams University, and in most block groups in Barrington. Asian population has gained significantly in Barrington, almost every block group. Hispanics have gained a percentage of population in every block group in the county, mostly alongside non-Hispanic Africans down in the Roger Williams Porch Part and going up the coast from the bottom of Bristol. And as we've seen elsewhere in the state, users that say there are two or more races has gotten much bigger than 10 years ago. And we see a very big jump in population of multi-race respondents in every part of the block group in the county, especially in Barrington. Again, this is our website for all interested users to follow along and see the data that we're presenting, see the hearings that have taken place. The Communities of Interest website is getting more and more utilized. We look forward to maybe in a future meeting doing a presentation on all what we've received. But for now, we still want more than we've gotten. And so everyone can create their own communities of interest. They will be able to get there from the website. If they go down to participate in the process and under draw a community of interest, if they click the link for a PDF tutorial, they'll be able to down one. It's the same that we've been passing out at every meeting since we've made them, but if they want a new one, it's downloadable at the PDF tutorial link. If they click Get Started, they'll be able to go right away to starting a community of interest. And they don't need to wait for any kind of account approval. They can go right away. I want to bring this slide back from a prior meeting because we've always talked a lot about what is this community of interest and what does it mean? Well, it's going to be a localized geographic group of residents with similar political interests that if you were to split them up would take away their ability to have their voice heard in politics. I made this slide for a meeting up in Woonsocket that I wanted to share again as some examples. Some of the best ones that we received in our State of Michigan project was where Arabs live in the big county outside Detroit. Arabs are not a group that get identified in the census. We have to look at local knowledge or other surveys to get an understanding of where they live. Similar groups here in Rhode Island would be Portuguese, Cape Verdean, Chinese. We know that they might be Asian, but we don't know anything more than that. And so that's why we do ask for local knowledge, and the Communities of Interest website can definitely clue us in. I've seen entries now that should point out Cape Verdean neighborhoods in Pawtucket, for example. I'd definitely like to see a lot more than we're getting. So hopefully with time and with as we release some drafts, that'll spur some more interest. Rural lifestyles can be a community of interest if they want a different voice than ones represented by the cities. Cities that are very similar, that have been historically split apart. There's a lot of interest in Michigan to getting some of those combined in the same district, so that increases their voice in government.
as well as groups that want to have a stable voice in government for certain needs, like you would see in the Lake Michigan shoreline. You know, if these all people can feel that if they are split up, they lose their ability to have a strong voice in government, and so that's why we do want to see where we should keep those communities intact. We do have our My Districting website up. Might go back to a previous slide to show how the users can get there. Under Create a District Plan, it does say Get Started to be linked directly to the My Districting website, as well as being able to download a PDF tutorial there. On this website, it is valid redistricting software that as you draw, you can see the district populations change and also the racial groups for each district change. And then we let the user know if a district is too small or too large, so that as they continue on with their plan, they can have a draft that passes legal muster, or they can say, you know, they can focus on certain like racial groups to say, you know, this district is where I would want it to be to represent this group. We are able to help if there's, you know, if there's maybe a little bit of a learning curve. We try to keep it as simple as possible, but we are definitely available to help get people through the process. I have been taking calls in the office to help users understand the system better, and I've also met a couple times in the state library for people at the State House that want me to show them in person how to use this website. We are definitely happy to do that. And so we ask anybody to get a hold of us at our email, info@riredistricting.org, or our phone number, 401-222-3876. We'll be happy to help. And with that, we definitely thank you for this opportunity to come talk to you here in Warren.
Thank you, Ryan. Any commission members that want to comment on that? Representative Newberry.
Thank you, Chairman. This is more of a comment for the public, but when I'm done, if you have a comment about it, please chime in. I want the public to understand that we do read all the information they do send us. We have an email here tonight from, I'm not going to mention his name, but he may be here in the audience, but someone from Riverside in East Providence who expressed some concern about the fact that the House district and the Senate district he lives in are primarily Barrington-based, but he lives in the small part in East Providence, and he wants to know to what extent that can be addressed. He expresses some concern talking to neighbors that, as in East Providence they call it the townies, he's concerned that his part of his neighborhood not being represented by a townie, maybe there's some voter apathy. And I just want to address that for a couple reasons. One is my own district is similar to that. My own district is mostly North Smithfield, but about 20% of the town of Burrillville is in my district. And I think I speak for all the incumbent, not just current incumbents, in the past, senators and representatives. I certainly, even though I don't live in Burrillville, pay attention to Burrillville issues. The power plant was a good example. It was nowhere near my district per se, but I certainly was very aware of the feelings of people of Burrillville. And so I don't think it really matters where people live, even if there's a perception of that. The second thing is, actually, Senator De La Cruz is a perfect example sitting next to me. She lives in North Smithfield, which is a really small part of her Senate district. So it is possible for people to win office, even if they're not from the majority part of the district. But the reason I bring this up is I want, number one, this gentleman and others to know we are listening to you, but there are explanations and reasons for these kinds of things. We have to draw by population, and it doesn't always match town boundaries. And with that, can you talk about what's likely to happen? Because the configuration of geography in this part of the state is particularly difficult. As the population pushes up and you can't go across the bay. So if you want to chime in on that.
The first thing I would like to do is have the resident take advantage of our online tools, my districting for district plans, as well as community of interest. If they feel like their neighborhood, Riverside, for example, should be kept whole in a district that is focused on East Providence, we definitely like to know about it. And so that's where they can take advantage of the tools that we've provided to them to give us good information on whether that can be possible. The district population does have to shift, and you don't have a lot of options here in the East Bay, but we do have flexibility. And so if you can submit kind of an idea of a portion of the neighborhood that should stay whole and within a certain district that's focused on East Providence, I would like to take advantage of our tools for that.
Yeah, I just think its bigger concern is that most of the district is in another town, and I understand why if people are in those parts that they may feel they're not being properly represented. My point is sometimes that's inevitable, and also I think any good legislator is not going to, they're going to represent the towns they represent. But can you talk, the East Bay geography is difficult in general, right? Because you can't, like I said, you can't go across the bay.
Yeah, we never got across the bay.
Yeah, so you got to go either north or south. There's really, I just want to, I maybe seem an obvious point, especially folks who live out here, but that is a problem, right?
It is a problem. But we do have, we want to make it make it work as best we can for everybody. But at some point, yes, districts do have to take on new parts of new towns. Yes. But we try and avoid that if possible.
Any other comments or questions from the commission members? I don't see any. Okay, we did not have anybody sign up on the sheet to speak, but if anybody would like to speak, please come up to the podium here, state your name and any affiliation if you are belonging to some sort of organization or group that you want us to note there, and you may be more than willing to speak. So at this time, we're opening it up to anybody of the public to testify. I'll just give a couple of minutes and wait to see if anybody has decided to. I don't see anybody moving forward, so we'll just, at this point, since no one has come forward to speak, we will close the public comment section of it, and the next meeting of this reapportionment commission is going to be next Monday night at the State House in room 313. Room 35 now? It was changed. I apologize. It is now going to be in room 35, which is the House Finance Room. So we'll be in the basement in room 35, and this one is specifically going to be concerning information and possibility of reapportioning the incarcerated people at the ACI and some of the other prisons. So with that being said, we have the next meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
question relative to that next meeting.
Yes, Senator.
Is it legally possible? Why are we meeting? Do we have the authority to do anything?
We are going to be taking testimony to see if there's anything that we can do to try and possibly move the members of the incarcerated people back to the home communities. Not sure if we can do anything or how we're going to do it, but we're going to open it up for testimony. We did receive quite a bit of information. Grant has dispersed to the commission members letters and any testimony, written testimony that's come in since the last meeting. And we have quite a few, some from the city of Cranston,
Right.
as
I realize that, Mr. Chairman, but can we get a legal opinion so that we know whether we can vote on that issue or not? Or is it something that has to be moved to the legislature as a body, maybe it be the Senate and the House Judiciary, and then all of the members voting? I'd like to get a legal opinion as we're moving forward with that meeting.
all right, I will ask if we can get a legal opinion while we're taking the public testimony on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Chairman, can I just make a comment? I mean,
Certainly.
at the end of the day, all we do is make a recommendation. We have to vote on, the legislature has to vote on this. So whatever happens with the prison issue, we can make one or more recommendations, then defer to the legislature in the end,
Yeah.
which some of us are part of, but that's legally what has to happen.
Okay. Any other comments? Do not see anybody's hand raised or anything. Okay. So the testimony we've gotten so far is we have Representative Leonella Felix has submitted written testimony concerning the ACI. Stephen Frias has written testimony. He also spoke to us at one of the other last meetings that we've had. Mayor Kenneth Hopkins from the city of Cranston has submitted testimony. Councilman Christopher Poplauskas who is the city council president, has submitted written testimony. And the last piece of written testimony we have received so far, up until today from the last meeting, is from a gentleman named Rick Lawson from Riverside, Rhode Island. So those are all, and they will all be put up on the website so that anybody else in the public that wants to read them and get background information may do so. With that, I will, as a second time, entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.